Hello everyone and welcome back to Send It's Weather channel, and today it looks like I got my prediction correct because we are actually looking at some pretty interesting signs finally to end October. As we all know, it's been very dry and quite mild at the moment. There's not been too much going on with the weather. We've kind of had a lot of dull, gloomy anti-cyclone weather for a long time, but that's all about to change. And you're about to see on these charts that there might be something quite interesting coming up, maybe even including the words cold and snow. Obviously the snow is exclusive for Scotland and the Cairngorms, but there you go, it's still there, it's still evident. And just for fun at the end, I'll show you a GFS chart of the latest run, which we are going to look at today to see what it is showing. Obviously, it's experimental just for fun. If you do enjoy today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate your continued support. And Send It's right again. Let's go. Makes me look better, doesn't it? But anyway, let's start now. So as I said, just mentioned, we've got higher pressure over the top of the UK. That is the worst higher pressure drawing you've ever seen, but you get the idea. Higher pressure is beginning to slip to our east. Lower pressure is beginning to move in from off the Atlantic through the early part of next week. So we've got an area of low pressure moving in from off the Atlantic, and that is bringing in some unsettled conditions to the UK. So as you can see, we've got plenty of unsettled conditions moving through within mild air. So it's still pretty mild at this point, you'd say. Slightly above average temperatures and all that sort of thing. But as you see, that area of low pressure clears through. That's going to bring some wet and windy weather to parts of the UK, particularly for central northern Britain, and also for the southwest, which will see the most rainfall to be expected anyway. Then we get another area of low pressure arriving pretty swiftly, to be honest. We've got ridging in the Atlantic, which will be important for later on. A mid-Atlantic ridge going up towards Greenland, and we've got an area of low pressure pushing through. Quite a deep area of low pressure on this run. Maybe one to watch. That brings bouts of really wet weather to the south and the southeast as that clears through the country. Parts of the Republic of Ireland, going into southwestern Britain, South Wales, and heading out into the North Sea. And as it exits out into the North Sea, by the 25th of October, the uncertainty starts to begin on the exact track of that low. But on the back edge, we begin to dig in the cold air from the north. And as you can see, the air's originating from around the Arctic. It's originating from a long way north. It's a pretty potent northerly wind. And as you can see, it takes a while because we were under milder air with those areas of low pressure clearing through. But as it clears through to our east, you can see some pretty cold air moving through the UK. So if we have a look at the temperatures, or the upper air level air temperatures, you can see the -5 line getting into northern Scotland there. It clears Scotland and is beginning to sink southwards. But as you can see there, by Saturday at the 25th, it's moved through into central Britain, central northern Britain, and before long it's through the country. But by this point, as you can see, higher pressure is just about out to our west. It's a mid-Atlantic ridge, but we are under the dry side, so it's pretty dry from the northwest in the west, but maybe in the east, we're actually bringing down more of a direct northerly, so actually could be enough for a few wintry showers in the north there, potentially. Have another area of low pressure dropping in from off the jet stream, dropping southwards. That's going to bring some wet weather in before we return the wind into a direct northerly. And we've got kinks in the isobars. If this was winter, we'd be talking about snow showers and stuff. But of course, end of October, not too bad. But the -5 line with this GFS run by day 10 and beyond, so uncertain. But by the 28th of October with this GFS run, the -5 line is clearing the country. It's pretty cold, I've got to admit, for October. Look at the temperature deviation, 5 to 6 degrees below average at the upper level air. Temperature's probably around 8 to 10 degrees, so pretty cold, to be honest. Maybe even a few wintry showers in the north, as I mentioned. Got another area of low pressure dropping in. This higher pressure on this GFS run, of course, subject to change. A lot of runs break it down, but the higher pressure retains on this run, the GFS 6Z, and lower pressure goes over Scandi. We send it to Scandi, and we've got another trough dropping, another trough dropping in from the jet stream there. That brings some more wet weather to the far north, but as that slides through, we return the wind into a northerly direction, maybe even quite a bit of snow there with that area of low pressure for the far north of Scotland there, over the mountains. But to end the run, so at start Halloween, we get an area of low pressure pushing through the country, and that looks very unsettled and returns milder weather in from the southwest. And we've got higher pressure ridging towards Greenland again. It basically maintains itself towards Greenland to end the run. Comparing that to the midnight run, again, areas of low pressure pushing through the weekend. Different tracks with this low on Thursday and Friday, so a lot of uncertainty with that. But this run, this midnight run, really keeps it formed and is very deep area of low pressure. Would bring in plenty of rain, particularly for central southern Britain there. And as that clears through again, winds back into a northwesterly to northerly direction. Not as cold with this run, but still pretty cold. The -5 line gets through the country. But again, we're under higher pressure again. An area of low pressure drops into that flow. And it's a little bit more Atlantic driven, this run. I've got to be honest, it has a temporary ridge before again another low drops in to start November. So a lot of uncertainty actually on this. But comparing it to the ECM, for example, let's see what that shows. So this is the midnight run. Again, starting on the 19th of October. Go there. Lower pressure moves in by early part of next week, bringing in bouts of wet weather. Another area of low pressure rattles through the country. This one's centred right over central Britain there, central northern Britain, bringing quite heavy rain and maybe even some quite strong winds as well to central Britain there on the 23rd. A lot of uncertainty with that. We'll focus on that in depth another time. But we'll focus on this for now because a lot of uncertainty with that. But winds back into that northerly direction very briefly for higher pressure returns to the south. And you do see that it's not as far to the northwest as the GFS, but it does still bring in some pretty chilly air at times with winds in from the northwest. So it looks quite cold really to end October here. Again, ridging trying to build out to our west, but there is an area of low pressure preventing it. But again, still a northwesterly flow, so pretty cool for the time of year, I'd say, but not as extreme as that GFS run, which probably will be an outlier. But here you go, this is just for fun. This is the GFS precipitation type forecast from the 6Z runs. You can see areas of rain moving through the country with those areas of low pressure. By the 25th, you can see the wind backs into that northwesterly to northerly direction, and it begins to turn wintry over the mountains, so plenty of snow showers backing into the north by the 25th. Even with that ECM run, you'd still expect a few wintry showers for the mountains there, Scottish Glens and stuff. You can see lots of rainfall moving in, which is pretty much needed for many parts of the country. Lots of rain moving in and wintry conditions for the far north of Scotland there. Bit of a snow event there. But as you can see, snow events moving through. We've got low pressure systems moving through. Even there, hints for northern England on the 28th as it gets colder from the north, possibly. But you can see just plenty of snow. You're focusing on the north there, but I mean, there's hints of central Wales getting that. I don't think so. Maybe higher elevation areas, but you can see plenty of rain moving through, plenty of snow as well. A very interesting run. Now, comparing it to the actual charts, which is then if we go to the midnight run, you can see that the general trend has changed a lot compared to a few days ago. So, send it Goody, right, let's go. So you can see we're above average with the temperatures for the next few days before they do seem to take a bit of a drop into the end of October. The last week of October looks to be quite cold. The -5 line is what you consider quite cold conditions for the UK. And we're not getting far off that with this GFS ensembles, which is all the runs combined in the GFS ensembles. You can see that the average gets down to about -2, -3, and you can see quite a few clustering of runs getting down to that -5 line, which is pretty cold for the time of year. And of course, higher elevation areas could still see some wintriness there, which would be quite interesting. But you can see that the general trend is down, precipitation spikes remaining continuous throughout the run, so definitely signs of rainfall. If you look at the snow depth, if you look at the snow charts for Buxton, which is obviously quite a high elevation area, you can see there's a few appearing, about 5 to 10. And then the 6Z run, which is not fully out, you can see that general trend of the temperatures dropping by around the 25th of October is pretty definitive from the GFS ensembles anyway, getting down to -2, which is pretty cold as well. You can see there, very consistent trend of a downwards trend is being shown here, but we'll have to just wait and see how things develop. Now, of course, we'll move on to something else very quickly. Now, this might be the reason why it's turning colder. Now, as you can see, we have been in a NEO positive phase, and we've seen plenty of lower pressure systems to the south of the UK and higher pressure There's been a way just over the top of the UK, keeping it quite doom, anticyclonic gloom. But you can see as we go, oopsie daisies, as we go into that final week of October, and that trend seems to continue. We are in a strongly, well, I'd say strongly negative NAO phase between -1 and -2. Basically, what that indicates is lower pressure returning back to the south and higher pressure maybe to the north. Or the northwest. So that indicates that we might see more northern blocking features. The Atlantic might be stagnated at times, especially to end October. You can see maybe signs of it returning to a slightly more neutral phase in the longer term, but again, that's a long way off, but maybe an extended negative phase. Now, of course, it's October, it's not going to be anything too ridiculous, but if we see higher pressure to the west, lower pressure to the east, winds in from a northerly direction, it can still be pretty cold. You can get like the -5 through the country. Maybe there might be a little bit of wintriness in there, but I highly doubt it at this stage. It's way too far off to say anything like that with any sort of certainty. But it's just something interesting to think about. So thank you all very much Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it and find it informative, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Send it is always correct. Nobody does it like send it. Nobody does it like Gav too. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.